Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sun Meadow Temple, and we're so happy that you joined us. My name is Gus, and this is our Pride Month service, and I'm so happy you're here. As always, the service is recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. Currently, Epiphany is out on vacation, as you probably already know, because he likes talking about it. We're going to open today with our open. Where's the open word? Hold on. I'm going to be opening today with our opening words, which should be on the slide right now, which I just did. We welcome you into the light of the gods and light this flame and celebration. May its brightness symbolize our connection to the gods in the natural world. May you join us in this community of faith, cherishing love and with open. Wait, no, I think that was the end. You know what? I don't. Okay. So today is our Pride Month service. And we will be reading clips from a variety of myths, queer themes. Anyone chatting in the? Okay. Keep in mind it is impossible to enforce our modern ideas of queer identities onto ancient civilizations, but we can take inspiration and awareness that queer identities have existed for thousands of years. As we are reading more than the normal amount of myths, we will not have a discussion portion after. We will begin with Apollo and Hyrcanus, Achilles, and Patroclus, or whatever. Tiresias, apparently, Gilgamesh and Enkidu, Thor and Loki, and then finally Sleipnir. Okay, so the first reading is by Lucian of Samosata, and it was translated by H.W. Fowler, and yeah. Okay, so it starts with Hermes and Hermes, why so sad, Apollo? Apollo said, Alas, Hermes, my love. Hermes said, Oh, that's bad. What are you still brooding over? What are you still brooding over that affair of Daphne? Apollo said, No, I grieve for my beloved, the Laconian, the son of Oebelos. Hermes said, Hyacinth, he is not dead. Apollo said, Look, Hermes said, Hyacinth, he is not dead. Apollo said, dead. Hermes said, Who killed him? Who could have the heart? That lovely boy. Apollo said, It was the work of my own hand. Hermes said, You must have been mad. And Apollo replied, Not mad, it was an accident. Hermes said, Oh? And how did it happen? He was learning to throw the quoit, and I was throwing with him. I had just sent my quoit up into the air as usual when jealous Zephyr said something. Damned he be above all winds. He had long been in love with Hyacinth, though Hyacinth would have nothing to say to him. Zephyr came blustering down. What scripture? It's the works of Lucian of Samosata. I don't know what that means, but it means something. I'm just reading off the script, bro. I don't got a clue about this shit. What was I? Zephyr came blustering down from Taygetus and dashed the quoit upon the child's head. Blood flowed from the wounds in streams, and in one moment all was over. My first thought was of revenge. I launched an arrow in Zephyr and pursued his flight to the mountain. As for the child, I buried him at Amyclae on the fatal spot, and from his blood I have caused a flower to spring up. Sweetest, fairest, and from his blood I have caused a flower to spring up, sweetest, fairest of flowers, inscribed with letters of woe. Is my grief unreasonable? It is, Apollo. You knew that you had to set your heart upon a mortal. Grieve not, then, for his mortality. Alright, so this next thing is called Metamorphosis Ovid, or whatever. It's translated by Henry T. Riley, and it's book 10, Fable 5, and then it's got the 355. I don't know what 355's for, but it's a thing. That's there. While such things are being uttered by the prophetic lips of Apollo, behold, the blood which poured from the ground has stained the grass, ceases to be blood, and from it and a flower springs up, more bright than the Tyrian purple, and it assumes the appearance which lilies have, were there not in this a purple hue, and in them that of silver. This was not enough for Phoebus, Phoebus, for 'twas he was that for 'twas he that was the author of this honor. He himself inscribed his own lamentations on his leaves, and the flower has I inscribed thereon, and the mournful characters there are traced. Nor is Sparta ashamed to have given birth to Hyanthus, and his honors continue to the present time. The Hykinthian festival returns to each year to be celebrated with the prescribed ceremonials after the manner of former celebrations. I have no clue what I just read, but this next thing is by Plato, and it's called Symposium. Very different was the reward of the true love of Achilles towards his lover Patroclus, his lover and not his love. The notion that Patroclus was the beloved one is a foolish error into which Aeschylus how do you say these words? Aeschylus apparently has fallen. For Achilles was surely the fairer of the two, fairer also than all the other heroes. And as Homer informs us, he was still beardless and younger far. And greatly as the gods honor the virtue of love, still the return of love on the part of the beloved to the lover is more admired and valued and rewarded by them, for the lover is more divine. I don't know. Because he is inspired by God. Now Achilles was quite aware, for he had been told by his mother that he might avoid death and return home, and live to a good old age, if he abstained from slaying Hector. Nevertheless, he gave his life to revenge. Nevertheless, he gave his life to revenge his friend, and dared to die, not only in his defense, but after he was dead. Wherefore the gods honored him even above Acestus, and sent him to the islands of the blessed. These are my reasons for affirming that love is the eldest and noblest and mightiest of the gods, and the chiefest author and giver of virtue and life, and of happiness after death. Okay, this one is another part of Metamorphosis by Metamorphosis Ovid. It's translated by Henry T. Riley. Book 3, Fable 5, called Tiresias in its Latin. Stanzas 110 through 115. And while these things are transacted on earth by the law of destiny, in the cradle of Bacchus, twice born 66 is secured. They tell that Jupiter or Jupiter by chance was drenched with nectar, laid aside all weighty cares, and engaged in some free jokes with Juno or Juno. In her idle moments she said and said, decidedly the pleasure of you females is greater than which falls to the male. She denied it. It was agreed between them to ask what the opinion of the experienced Tiresias. To him both pleasures were well known, for he who had separated with a blow of his staff two bodies of large survey, as they were coupling in a greenwood, and become a woman from a man he had spent 7 on. In the 8th he again saw the same serpents, and said, if the power of the stroke given you is so great as to change the condition of the giver into the opposite one, I will now strike you again. Having struck the same snakes, his former sex returned, and his origin shape came again. He therefore, being chosen as umpire in the sportive contest, confirmed the loves of Jove. The daughter of Saturn is said to have grieved more than was fit, and not in proportion to the subject, and she condemned the eyes of the umpire to eternal darkness. But the omnipotent Father, for it is not allowed any god to cancel the acts of another deity, gave him the knowledge of things to come. In I know this word. In recompense for his loss of sight, and alleviated his punishment by this honor. I'm sorry, I'm bad at reading. Gilgamesh 33 to 34. Langdon Babylonian section volume 10 number 3. I saw him and was astounded. I loved him as a woman falling upon him in embrace. That one was short. Alright, this one is called Norse Mythology by R.D. Anderson. Wrath was Vingthor as he awakened in his hammered goodness. His beard shook, his hair trembled, the sun of earth looked around him. Thus first of all he spoke. Mark now, Loki, what I say. What no one knows either on earth or in high heaven, the hammerer's soul went to Freya's fair dwelling. There in these words Thor spoke. Wilt thou, Freya, lend me thy feather guise, that I my hammer Mjolnir may fetch? I gave it thee gladly, though it were of gold. I would instantly give it, though it were of silver. Flew then Loki, the feather guise whiz. Out he flew from home of Azas, meaning Aesir gods. In he flew to home of Jotnar. On the hill sat Thrym, the king of giants, twisted gold bands for his dogs, smoothed at leisure the manes of his horses. Thrym said, how fare the Asas, how fare the elves? Why comest thou alone to Jotunheim? Loki replied, ill fare the Asas, ill fare the elves. Hast thou concealed the hammer of Thor? Thrym said, I have concealed the hammer of Thor 8 rasts beneath the ground. No man brings it back unless he gives me Freya as his bride. Flew then Loki, the feather guise whiz. Out he flew from home of Jotun. In he flew to home of Asas. Met with Thor first of all, and thus addressed him. Hast thou succeeded in doing thine errand? Then tell before perching long messages. What one says sitting is often of little value, and falsehood speaks who replies. Loki said, well, I have succeeded in doing my errand. Thrym has thy hammer, the king of the Jotun. No giant brings it back. No man brings it back, unless he gives him Freya as bride. When they then the fair Freya to find, first then Thor thus addressed her: "Dress thyself, Freya, in bridal robes. Together we will ride to Jotunheim." Angry grew Freya, and she raged, so the hall of the Asas must shake. Her heavy necklace Brisingamen broke, and would then I would then I would be a lovesick maid, if with thee I would ride to Jotunheim. Then all the Asas went to the Ting. To the Ting went all the Asynjes, the powerful how does it say it's Asynjera, the powerful divinities, and how they should get held consult how they should get the hammer back. Then spoke Heimdall, the whitest god, foreknowing was he as the Vans are. Dress we Thor in bridal robes, Brisingamen he must beware. Let jingle keys around his waist, let a woman's dress cover his knees. On his bosom we put broad brooches, and artfully we braid his hair grey. And artfully we his hair grey. Spoke then Thor, the mighty god, mock me all the Asas would, if in bridal robes I should be dressed. Spoke then Loki, Lofeson, Lofeyrson. Be silent, Thor, stop such talk. Soon will Jotna build an Asgard, if though thy hammer bring not back. Dressed they then Thor in bridal robes, Brisingamen he had to wear, keys let they jingle about his waist, and a woman's dress fell over his knees, on his bosom they placed broad brooches, and they artfully they his hair did braid. Spoke then Loki, for thee I must be servant maid. Ride we both to Jotunheim, home were driven then the goats, and hitched to the car. Hasten they must, the mountains crashed, the earth stood in flames. Ulfden's son rode to Jotunheim, spoke then Thrym, the king of giants. Giants, arise and spread my benches. Bring to me Freya as bride, Njotha's daughter from Nilfgaard. Cows with golden horns go in the yard, black oxen to please the giant. Much wealth have I, many gifts have I, Freya, methinks, is all I lack. Early in the evening came they all, ale was brought up for the Jotun. One ox Thor ate, eight, eight salmon, and all the delicacies for the woman intended. Siv's husband, Siv's husband besides drank 3 barrels of mead. Spoke then Thrym to the king of giants: "Where hast thou seen such a hungry bride? I never saw a bride eat so much, and never a maid more than me drink more mead." Sat there the shrewd maidservant near, thus she replied to the words of Thrym: "Nothing ate Freya in 8 nights." So much did she long for Jotunheim, behind the veil. He sought a kiss, but back he sprang the length of the wall. Why are Freya's eyes so sharp? From her eyes it seems that fire doth burn. Sat there the shrewd maidservant near, and thus she spoke, answering the giant: "Slept has not Freya for 8 nights, so much did she long for Jotun." In came the poor sister of Thrym, for bridal gift she dared to ask, give from the hands the golden rings, thou dearest friendship of me and love. Spoke then Thing, the king of giants, bring me the hammer, my bride to hollow. Place the hammer in the lap of the maid, wed us together in the name of God. Laughed then Thor's heart in his breast. Severe in mind, he knew his hammer. First he slew Thrym, though the king of giants, crushed then all that race of giants, slew the old sister of Thrym, she who asked for a bridal gift. Slack she got for shining gold, hammer blows for heaps of rain. Thus came Fulton's son again by his hand. That one was long. Okay, this next one is the Elder Edda or Poetic Edda of Semund Sigfusson. It's translated from the original Old Norse into English by Benjamin Thorpe and the Younger Eddas of Snorri Sturluson was translated by I. A. Blackwell. Of the horse Sleipnir thou madest mention, said Gangler, of the horse Sleipnir. To whom does he belong, and what is there to say respecting him? Thou seemest to know nothing either about Sleipnir or his origin, replied Hogg, but thou wilt no doubt find what thou wilt hear worthy of thy notice. Once on a time when the gods were constructing their abodes, and had already finished Midgard and Valhall, a certain art, art, artif, artificer came and offered to build them, in the space of 3 half years, a residence so well fortified that they should be perfectly safe from the incursion of the Jotnar, of the ice Jotnar and the mountain Jotnar, even although they should have penetrated within you. But he demanded for his reward the goddess Freya, together with the sun and moon. After long deliberation, the Aesir agreed to his terms, provided he would finish the whole work himself, without anyone's assistance, and all within the space of 1 winter. But if anything remained unfinished on the first day of summer, he should forfeit the recompense agreed on. On being told these terms, the artificer stipulated that he should be allowed the use of his horse, called Svidabba Svadifari, and thus, by the advice of Loki, was granted to him. He accordingly set to work on the first day of winter, and during the night let his horse draw stone for the building. The enormous size of the stone struck the Aesir with astonishment, and they saw clearly that the horse did 1/2 more of the toilsome work than his master. Their bargain, however, had been concluded in the presence of witnesses, and therefore by solemn oaths, for without these precautions a Jotun would not have thought himself safe among the Aesir, especially when Thor returned from an expedition he had then undertaken towards the east against evil Phoenix. As the winter drew to a close, the building was far advanced, and the bulwarks were sufficiently high and massive to render this residence impregnable. In short, when it wanted but 3 days to summer, the only part that remained to be finished was the gateway. Then sat the gods on their seats of justice and entered into consultation, inquiring of one another who among them could have advised to give Freya away to Jotunheim, or to plunge the heavens in darkness by permitting the giant to carry away the sun, and they all agreed that no one but Loki, the son of Loki, and the author of so many evil deeds, could have given such bad counsel, and that he should be put to a cruel death if he did not contrive some way or other to prevent the artificer from completing his task and obtaining the stipulated recompense. They immediately proceeded to lay hands on Loki, who, in his fright, promised upon oath that, let it cost him what it would, he would so manage matters that the man should lose his reward. That very night, sorry, excuse me, I yawned. That very night, when the artificer went with Bodhi for building stone, a mare suddenly ran out of the forest and began to neigh. The horse, being thus excited, broke loose and ran after the mare into the forest, which obliged the man also to run after the horse. And thus between one and the other the whole night was lost, so that at dawn the work had not made the usual progress. The man, seeing that he had no other means of completing his task, resumed his own gigantic stature, and the gods now clearly perceived that it was in reality a mountain giant who had come amongst them, no longer regarding their eggs. They therefore called on Thor, who immediately ran to their assistance, and lifting up his hammer Mjolnir, paid the workmen his wages, not with the sun and moon, and not even by sending them back to Jotunheim. For with the first blow he shattered the giant's skull to pieces, and hurled him headlong into a Niflheim. But Loki had ran such a race with Svaldbifari that shortly after he bore a grey foal with 8 legs. This is the horse Sleipnir, which excels all horses ever possessed by gods or men. Okay, we're done reading, thankfully. This month, as we celebrate the diversity of our world, let us remember those who came before and those who fought for the world we now have today. We will now move into the ritual part of the observance. If you want to, you can join us at home and read the words aloud or just listen. I need to change the thing. You are welcome to complete the ritual at home. We leave this offering for our gods to symbolize our connection and devotion. We gift this water to accept the flow of our lives. We gift this rock to symbolize the stability of the gods in the world. We welcome life and bless our offerings with oil to share our riches. We embrace our connection to each other and the world and celebrate our revival. As we move out into the world, let us remember our community of faith. Cherish love and open your heart as you walk through life. Hold dear the light of the gods and our connection with the natural world. Go forth in celebration and carry the light of connection within your heart. Okay, we're done with that part.